let's talk about the future of work. So the future of work, it's a big concept. I wanted to present you two research papers that discuss key trends that I think are worth mentioning. So the first one I think is huge. It was conducted by Dell Technology, and it says that 85% of jobs that exist in 2030 haven't even been invented yet. So if you think about this, this is huge. 85% of jobs that will exist, we can't even learn because they don't exist. So, this research wasn't specific for law firms. I think, solicitors, lawyers will stay. However, what it means is there will be a lot of different jobs around law that people will need to learn, people will need to do to stay competitive in the market. And the most interesting thing about this research is that they did a research into what skills are essential for the future. And what they found is that actually the hard skills that seems to be important now are not as important in the future, because we can't, as I said, we can't learn the skills that don't exist yet. So what they identified is that skills like adaptability and soft skills are much more important for the future to stay competitive. So what really seems to be the key for the future is the ability to learn new skills quickly, to adapt to the fast-paced environment so you can stay competitive in the future. So I think that's very important. That shows that there's a shift from hard skills to soft skills. So as we saw during COVID, adaptability is key to stay competitive and stay afloat even over the pandemic. So that's the one of the research studies. The second one is from Korn Ferry. So that identifies different trends that are key for the future of work. So I picked 5 of them, and you can see when you read through them: reinvention, vitality, individuality, scarcity, inclusivity. They all gravitate around individuals, around personalization for each individual. And I think the huge one is scarcity. So it also identifies that moving forward, there will be ever bigger skills gap. There'll be new skills, and there'll be even faster pace of development of the markets and the economy. And what it causes really is for companies to reinvest internally into the people, to create an environment where people have good well-being, are engaged and motivated, so they can reinvent themselves as well and stay competitive in the future and help the companies grow. So those are the 2 different research papers that I think highlight that the future will be much more fast-paced, and to be able to stay with the economy and to stay competitive as companies, as an individuals, we need to focus on us and have a personalized approach and create an environment where people can reinvent themselves and are motivated to do so as well. So hopefully that's gave you a good overview of the future of work. I'm sure you've got your experiences already. But let me introduce you to what we do at Your Flock and how it aligns with this concept. So Your Flock is a core values-based employee retention platform. We are based in Manchester. We are based on research from the University of Manchester. We got a lot of investment. Some of it was Innovate UK. We've got some machine learning on the back of it within our platform. And we really work with almost every single industry possible. But our main focus is on law firms, as we see that our solution can specifically target some of the current market changes and challenges. So that's the introduction to what we do at Your Flock. I am, as I said, the co-founder, and as a quick introduction to myself, I am the co-founder, but I am also a dad. And unfortunately for you, I'm one of those dads that always shows a picture of his son whenever they have a chance. So here you go. Here's Rafael. Here's my second startup. And he's almost 2 years old now. So this is quite an old picture. But I really run 2 startups, Rafael and Your Flock. And I promise this is the last time I'm showing this picture. I just had to get it out of the way. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. So talking about the challenges we identified, we found that 57% of employees who leave their jobs do it because of the relationship with their managers. We even recently did a panel discussion earlier this month, and all of the panelists said that people don't really leave companies, they leave their bosses. And that seems to be the case. But looking at it from the other perspective, from the perspective of managers, we found that 90% of managers actually admit that they don't have enough time to build those relationships with employees. They don't have time to support them, to prioritize their work. And so that creates this situation where managers are responsible for retaining employees and engaging them, but they don't have enough time. And often, they don't have enough time because they're too busy. They've got their to-do list, and whenever you have your people's priorities, they often go to the bottom of the list. And that's especially true for remote work, because you don't even see people in your team, so you don't know what sort of challenges they have, and you can't act on it quickly. And sort of zooming into the legal industry on that challenge, often when lawyers are really good, they become managers. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they have more time to manage employees. Often they don't even have KPIs to spend around spending time with their teams and managing their teams. And often there's no training for the managers or the framework on how to best play to people's strengths or manage them. So I think because of the dynamics of the legal market, this is especially true for the legal industry. And the reason why we created Your Flock is to effectively solve that problem. So what we created is a platform that helps managers to have a very quick overview of what's happening in the team, what are people top motivators, and what's the action plan on who to speak with and what to discuss. And the main value proposition is really employee retention. So we're very proud to say that all companies that use us for 6 months or longer have got better employee retention than the industry average. So as I said, this is a huge thing. I haven't even expected that from our platform, and I'm very happy that it's happening. We also help to raise employee engagement over the first 6 months by about 5%. And we're also very quick. So we know that law firms, lawyers don't really have time for anything. So all we require is 1 minute of employees' time every 2 weeks. And then with that, we create an action plan that helps to raise that retention. So let me quickly show you, explain to you how the platform works. So whenever you sign up to the platform, we ask people to complete a survey. That survey takes about 5 minutes to complete, and this survey is based on research from the University of Manchester and Stanford University, and it creates each individual core values profile. And those profiles effectively show you what are the top motivators of each individual. For example, in my case, my top motivator is customer focus. So I need to have access to client data, have client-facing tasks to stay engaged. If I don't, then I become disengaged over time. So the system knows it. So every 2 weeks, it will ask me questions like, did I have a chance to interact with clients over the past 2 weeks? And if I haven't, and my score dips, then my manager gets a one-pager report on Monday morning with an action plan. And one of the actions would say, catch up with Michael, give him more client-facing tasks, and this will boost my performance. So a very simple solution, but with those simple action points, we can then raise the retention. So that's how it works in short. I would love to now introduce you to one of our case studies, which is IMD Solicitors. So they, use Your Flock, but we are not the only solution that they use. They also did other things within the company that had a massive impact on their performance, retention, and so on. So I would love to show you how they use Your Flock, but also what other things they implemented that had that positive impact. So the first sort of impact that they had is that within the first 6 months, they managed to minimize the employee turnover and save £100,000 just by minimizing that employee turnover. So now I would love to show you how they use our platform, and then I'll show you what other things they use within the company. So if I go to this tab in here, you'll be able to see how our platform looks like. So in here, this is the team profile. This is what the manager would see. And there's a step prior to this one as well. So every employee that signs up will be asked to complete a 5-minute survey, and that survey will create their profiles. Once we have everyone signed up, this is what the team leader would see. At the top in here, you can see the top core value of the team, meaning what is everyone collectively the most driven by. In our case, it is customer focus, meaning if we create a culture that shares customer success stories or gives insights to client feedback, people will engage more. And then in here, you can see your team engagement score, which is calculated by collecting 1-minute feedback from people, which is tailored to each individual. And then on the back of that, you get this score in here. So I would love to show you a quick overview of how employees complete that feedback. So I've got a very quick video in here that shows that. So each employee that signs up, they don't even need to sign up with the platform. They get the email, they get the link directly emailed to them. So they click on that link and then they get directed to the feedback survey. And this is how it looks like. So it's literally 6 questions, takes about 1 minute to complete. First one is about how happy they're at work. Second one is tailored to the core value of the team. So ask whether a specific behavior exists in that team. The third question is about managers, asking how do you rate your manager. The fourth one is an opportunity to provide comments. So this is anything, any recognition that people want to provide, any behaviors that they enjoyed, would like to do more of, they can put that input in here as well. And then the following question is tailored to me as an individual. So I am motivated by customer focus. So the question is asking, do I often receive client feedback? And if this score is low, then that would flag it to the manager to give me more opportunity to get that client feedback to make sure that I stay engaged. And then the last question is a very generic one, which is, do you need a one-to-one? Anything can happen to anyone. If you need a one-to-one support, you can say yes, and then the manager will get that notification as well. And that's literally the feedback. And on the back of that feedback, you then get access as a manager to a feedback report, which you receive every 2 weeks on Monday morning. And it looks something like this. Sorry, so I can't see. This is how it looks like. So this is what the manager would receive on Monday morning. So it's literally a 1-pager. And at the top in here, you can see your most important scores. So how happy your employees are, how strong the top core value is of the team, and what's your team leader rating. But the most important bit is this bit in here, which is your action plan on who to speak with and what to speak about. So in our case, we can see that I am actually listed in here, and I just asked for support. So I said yes in this last question of the feedback survey. We've got Benedict, who actually hasn't responded for a month, so he just needs a reminder. And we've got 2 employees in here. Cassidy, for example, we know she's driven by collaboration. Looks like her score has dipped recently, so we need to catch up with her over a coffee and find out how we can offer more support around her role. We also have got Joshua, who's driven by customer focus. We know that he's a developer. He doesn't really get that insight to client needs or feedback. So we need to make sure that we give that more to him, because then we know that he will feel more motivated and he will stay with us for longer as well. And then at the bottom, people have an opportunity to provide those comments. Any recognition or anything good that happened in the team can be shared in here. And that's really the 1-page report. So the whole purpose of this is that you have a busy team leader, doesn't really have time to catch up with everyone on a regular basis. And here you get a very quick overview of what's happening in the team, what are your people priorities. You can execute it over the following week. And then as you do it, we know that your employee retention will improve. And then the last thing I wanted to show you within our platform is this bit in here. So if you have somebody listed on the report, you can pick them from the drop down in here, and then it will show you their profile against the team profile. So the initial 5-minute survey that we do, that creates this profile. So we have a framework of 9 different core values. It's all based on research from the University of Manchester and Stanford University. I'm happy to share with you all the research after as well, if you're interested in the topic. And the whole purpose of this is to have a framework for your conversations with people, rather than just asking, how are you or how is work? You can frame it around their strengths and differences. And there's no right or wrong answers. You can have people who are completely different, who bring diversity and unique value to the team. And the whole purpose of this is to find out how different you are and how you can improve working together. So for example, in my case, you can see my adaptability and customer focus are much higher. So my strength is really to work quickly under time pressure. And what I need from the team is the ability to work within a fast-paced environment. However, you can see that my recognition is at 0, meaning, it's not a great thing for a CEO of a company to not provide recognition to employees. So this shows me that it doesn't mean that, I don't recognize people. It means it doesn't come naturally to me, and it can cause some conflict, miscommunication, demotivation of employees. So, you can gravitate the conversation around the differences. So what can I commit to minimize those differences? And one of those things could be providing recognition to people every Friday afternoon. Very simple thing that you can implement to minimize potential negative consequences of those gaps. And then you can also, in here, you've got a button to download individual reports, and I've got to preload it in here. And this is effectively a longer report that gives you more insights into what makes people the best at work. So if you scroll down in here, this is my report. You'll be able to see what's important to me, what I need from the team to be at my best. So this is particularly useful for teams that are growing, for teams that have new employees on the team that you don't really know what they're motivated by. This gives you a very quick overview showing, this is how you play to these strengths. And we also show what motivates people, what demotivates them, what leadership style they have. So like in my case, give me more freedom to experiment and I will engage more. Give me more routine tasks and I will disengage more. If you lead me in a way that I can encourage new ideas or work on new ideas, I will also engage more. So this is a report that gives managers more inspiration onto what to do with employees so they can be their best in the team. So that's really how the platform works. This is how IMD used it. And this is how, other companies use it as well. And, after this, I would love to get your feedback on what do you think of our platform as well. But for now, let's go back to the presentation, which I have in here. So this is how IMD use the platform and other companies. And let me introduce you to IMD itself and also show you what other things they did within the business. So I think, personally, I think Euroflow can add huge value to the company, but also we are not, I can't say we are the only thing that improves employee retention. There are a lot of other things that you can do, and I would love to share them with you as well. So if you don't know IMD Solicitors, they are a law firm based in Manchester. Since they started working with us, they actually became finalists for the Best Company Culture, Diversity and Inclusion, or Law Firm of the Year awards. As I said before, they saved £100,000 just by minimizing employee churn, and they actually grew by 50% over the past 2 years. And Marcin, the managing partner, said that since they started focusing on the people and their culture, they actually hit the record year after record year in terms of the financial performance. So I asked Marcin, and we did an event with him as well, to talk about what things do they do within their business. And one of interesting sentences that he said is they put employee engagement as the priority, which I think is a nice way to put it. But here are some of the things that they implement. So one thing that I think is quite unique is the onboarding. So whenever they recruit somebody new, and it could be an employee or a consultant, all of the new employees get a mentor and they also get a buddy in the office. So they are required to work from the office for the first month at least to get to know the company culture, the people, build relationships. And the buddies are there to help them, understand that culture. Mentors are there to help them, improve their skills. And because of that, nice and very caring onboarding, people, engage with the company straight away. And, so they stay for longer. They also have one person responsible for employee engagement. I found that particularly in small law firms, you don't really have anyone who is responsible for this. They took a decision very early that there needs to be one of the partners that's responsible for it. And because they've got that accountability, they can move things forward, which I think is very useful. And they also have meetings. Often I found that lawyers meet on a quarterly basis. They meet on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. However, they don't run 3 hour long or an hour long meetings. They can meet up over 15 minutes over a coffee just to have a quick catch up and have that frequency for the meetings, so they can effectively build stronger relationships because they speak more often. And also, whenever they meet or do something as a business, they are not only confined to the office. So they often do walk-in one-to-ones, they do walk-in tours with the business, they do different activities outside of the office. As Martin said, that this creates a new environment, sparks more creativity and innovation for the business as well. So I definitely recommend this one as well. And they also offer full flexibility. So every employee can choose whether they want to work from the office or from home. If they want to work from home, 7 days a week or 5 days a week, they can choose to do that, which I think is a huge value proposition. As you can see that most law firms are now requiring people to work at least 3 days per week. So I think this is very bold, and it only is working for them because they use technology to have access to how people feel, what are the current challenges, so they can act on them relatively quickly. So if there's any challenge, they know about it straight away, and then they can act on it and make sure people are at their best, even when they work from home, and they don't feel, separated from the company, and they don't feel lonely. And it allows them to build those relationships, even though when people work from home. And your flock is one of those technologies. So this is some of the key things that they do, but obviously we worked with other law firms as well, other companies across different industries. So I've created a few bullet points that I think are worth exploring if you want to make it work for your own firm as well. And one of the key ones that I found across many companies that we work with is the initial understanding. So often, there's no, especially at the leadership level, there's no collective understanding that employee turnover or employee engagement impacts the bottom line. So I think it's required to have that collective understanding that this is the case. Otherwise, no decisions will be made. And there's a lot of research that shows that more engaged teams are 21% more productive or profitable, sorry. And employee turnover, if somebody leaves the team, then the whole team becomes less productive. If you recruit somebody new, that's recruitment fees, and also the new person will take a couple of weeks to reach that full productivity. So you have that financial loss. We actually created an employee turnover cost calculator where you just put a few key figures from your business, and then you get to know the cost of your own employee turnover. So I think by sharing that employee turnover across the business and engagement can have an impact on the bottom line, and understanding that, especially across the leadership level, is the first step, really. Then the second one is I found that some companies now started to allocate time to partners to manage team. Hello, Adam. Sorry, have you got a question? Sorry, if you can, I'm about to finish, so we can come to the discussion in a second. So allocating time to partners to manage a team can actually be beneficial, because then you can create a collectively productive teams across the company rather than just having productive partners. And then over communication is good. Often it's seen as a waste of time. However, if you do have those one-to-ones that are short, 10-15 minutes, that's just but are more frequent, then you have that pulse, what's happening in the company, what are the current challenges, and you can solve them very quickly. Next one is trust. So you can't really work remotely if you don't have trust in people that they will deliver their objectives. So I think that's important for companies as well. And the glue that keeps everything together is really the technology that makes sure that you have that continuous feedback, what's happening, what are the key challenges, so you can continuously act not only as an HR team, but also as managers and leaders of the company. You have access to it and you can act on it. So those are, 5 different bullet points that I think would be worth considering when working, as a law firm. And we found that those are the things that sort of help companies to raise their retention and engagement as well. So this is really the end of setting the scene. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Obviously, if you'd like to find out more, I would love to have a chat after. But now I would love to move to including you in the presentation as well. So I don't know if you've got any questions, but I've got a generic question for everyone. If you had any activities within your businesses where they were successful and employees found engaging. Did any of the things that I mentioned resonate with you? Did you do any of them, or did you do anything else within your firms? So I'll open the chat as well.
Yeah, please do feel free to unmute yourself and come onto the session as well. That's not a problem at all. Michelle, just while people are thinking of questions, I just wanted to ask you something sort of about how this program can be adapted. So while you were talking, I was thinking about the regular meetings we have with students at the University of Law. So we're all academic coaches who meet regularly with our students. Could this could you sort of adapt the values from the slide with the graph on to suit a sort of organization, and would we be able to sort of change that slightly to check in with our students before we meet them? Because I love the idea of actually having the conversation pre-made. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. We get that question asked a lot. So the question is effectively, can we adapt the framework to another set of values so you can adapt it to your style of working with students? Is that right?
Sorry, I was muted myself there. Yes, that's absolutely, the question.
So we tried that before, and effectively, because the framework that we use, it doesn't focus on company values. It focuses on individual values. So what drives each individual, and we take that individual approach. We've done that once where we adapted it to company values, but we found it takes a long time, because really the framework that we use is based on thousands of data points, so it's valid and reliable. Whereas if we work with a new set of data, we need to prove that actually the questions that we asked and the values that we identified are real and are valid as well. So it takes a lot of time and commitment, especially from leadership, to create that initial research to adapt the framework. So technically it's possible, but we don't really do it because often people don't have time to adapt it. That's why we created a standardized system.
Was it your research that you came through from this, from Manchester?
Yes. So the whole concept is based on research from Stanford University, and the methodology is called organizational culture profile. And if you look it up, there's been hundreds of different research papers on this. So what I did at the University of Manchester, I did my own research using that methodology, and on the back of that research, that really created this research created the framework, and it really gave the birth to what we do at Euroflock today.
Thank you. Well, I'm hogging the questions here. Does anybody else have a question? If you do, please feel free to unmute yourself or to just pop any questions in the chat.
Hi, it's Tom. It's Tom here. Can you hear me?
Hi,
yes.
Tom.
Hi. Yeah, I've got a few random questions. I should say any thoughts of my own, not on behalf of either of the organisations that I'm associated with. But I think that looked really interesting. I liked the web there. I think that
diagrams. Yeah.
That looked great. And a few random questions. What for people to give the genuine feedback on, you said it was anonymous. How do you reassure people that it's how do you reassure people in the organization that the feedback is anonymous?
Yes, so that's a good question. So the way we really work with teams. You saw that the platform that we have is around teams. So usually the teams are quite small, and the way we structure the feedback survey is the first 3 questions are anonymous and the last 3 questions are not anonymous. So how do we? So with regards to the first 3 questions, how do we reassure people that they are anonymous? Well, it's in the survey, it says they are anonymous. We often, when we work with companies, we do an onboarding session to show the demo of the platform. And, we never identify each individual response. It's never in the report. What we do around those first 3 questions, we just take an average of the entire team, and then we feed it to the manager. On the back of that, we also provide support to managers. So every month we schedule half an hour catch up where we make sure that managers know how to use the reports, how to action them. And those are sort of strategies that we help to minimize any potential risk of people being scared of providing feedback. But we really, this tool is really for employees to communicate with managers better. The problem is that managers don't have time to speak with employees. So we create this framework where they can effectively communicate with them and quickly, so they can act on it quickly as well. And that's why the last 3 questions are not anonymous, because they're specific to recognition you want to provide to somebody. Or, for example, if your top core value is customer focus and you're not getting any client-facing tasks, you want to tell your manager that you want more of these. So with this report, you can then communicate it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I've got another one. Do you think that some of the better managers would be in favor of your product, and that some of the people who weren't as good managers wouldn't want it because they wouldn't want to be exposed?
Yes, so that's a good question as well. I mean, so what we create at the start is a baseline for each manager, right? And then we know that by using this, so yeah, some managers can be much better, some managers can be much worse, but we know that by using the platform on a regular basis, you will improve your employee retention, right? So if you are a worse manager today, with this platform, you can actually improve. And you don't only get the platform, but you also get the support from us. So I guess, to answer your question, it is true that some managers might be scared of being exposed, but as long as you want to, improve over time, and you're open to improving, then, we can help with that.
Yeah, great. Next random question.
Okay.
Can you give us an insight into the machine learning that you mentioned is involved in it?
Yeah, so it's very simple, really. So at the back, we get a lot of data points around each individual core values, how each individual aligns with the team, how long they've been in the company, what sort of teams they part of, what teams they lead, how specific engagement changes over time. And then, so we get all those data points, and then as an output, we see who leaves the business. So we can see all this, mix of different data points. What do they lead to? Do they lead to people leaving, or do they lead to people staying? So if we see that, for example, the engagement significantly dropped last week, and we saw, 100 other employees had the same pattern, and then they left, we would then flag that person and say, you need to catch up with them, have a conversation with them around, their core value, and make sure that they are being given that, core value-based environment to make sure they stay.
Yeah. Okay. And last point, I was trying to look at your website just before the talk, and I couldn't actually see anything on it. It wouldn't. Is it down for maintenance or something at the moment?
So that's our mistake. So this morning we forgot that we scheduled some maintenance work this morning, and we've only realized before this event that is the case. So right now we actually send an email out, but if you're not our user, you wouldn't get it. But yeah, so it's under maintenance now, but this afternoon it will be back on. So we will, after this, I can share. Please enter the website again in the afternoon.
Yeah, we can get people's email addresses, I'm sure. I was wondering if you can hear me as well. It's just because Laura's got a really good question, but it's in the chat, so I just thought I'd because I don't think her mic's working, so I'm just doing my best Laura Stevens impersonation, which most probably isn't very good, so my apologies, Laura. But her question's a really good one, which is she was just wondering if we've seen a difference in motivations for employees across different types of law firms as well, and in different areas of law. And you know how much of a geek I love to look at all the value things. But also, are you finding that lawyers find engaging the same, or are they the same across different organisations? So have we seen that employee law is slightly different, or are lawyers all made the same across different? Because I know we work with several law firms, so over to you. Have we seen anything in the data that we've had for the last 6 months?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a very good question, and this is something that I like doing as well. And I probably do it too much in terms of data management. I should be focusing more on other bits of the business.
Data is important. Sorry, go on.
But yeah, so we've done that research. We can actually share it with you. We've done it for the last year. I think we're about to do it for this year as well. We haven't really gone into the detail of different types of specializations across law. We just took one sort of law as whole industry. From what I remember, I think the highest core value for lawyers was autonomy and being able to work without being confined by rules. So I think that a huge sort of learning from that is don't tell lawyers what to do. And, you know, often companies are forcing employees to say, you need to go back to the office. I think it will have an adverse effect on people's motivations. I think much better approaches say, come to the office, those are the benefits, lead it from the top, and then people will engage with it more because they will still have the autonomy. But looking at other industries, you know, different. So what I found, for example, in recruitment agencies is that they would both work in the same industry, but would have completely different cultures. One will be driven by, let's say, result focus. The other one will be driven by recognition. And, you know, the one that's driven by result focus is not driven by recognition at all. And they both successful in the market. And the reason why they're successful is because they align their culture with also the way they do business externally. And I think that's the key to find out what's unique about your culture and how you can use it to your advantage of how you work externally with clients. So we've done the research for the last year. I think, Dan, we've got it right. So I'm happy to share that after the call as well, to show what are the different key core values and sort of motivators across different industries as well, if you find it useful, Laura.
No, we've definitely got that because we created a few pieces on it, and as I say, that's the thing that I find really interesting. Also, again, slight aside is how interesting it is to see how values change over time. And certainly, if we'd known, of course, as no one did, because it's a black swan moment, but we didn't know that what COVID and the post-COVID world would be. And the massive change that's happened with remote and then hybrid work. But it was interesting to see. I noticed in the data that caring became more of a thing post-COVID than it was before. Now that could have just been complete luck, but maybe not. But I'd give you a couple of ones, Michal, on the different sectors as we're just filling in while we get another question. Amazed, well, that didn't amaze me because it was really, when I thought about it a bit deeper, it was quite clear. But teamwork was a really big one, wasn't it, for creative and digital agencies? And so they actually want to get back into the offices and collaborate more because teamwork's a really strong value for them. Tell you what, when one did surprise me with lawyers, because it just stands out. So I reminded, it was data driven wasn't as high as I thought it would be. Because I just presumed it was about being precise with things, but I don't necessarily know it's the case. Autonomy was definitely up there. Adaptability was quite low, wasn't it? What was the other one? There was another one as well with it. Oh, but teamwork wasn't as high as I thought it was going to be. But again, that kind of, you know, as Laura saying, you know, it's she understands that really kind of rings home true for her around the autonomy bit. But as I say, I think for me, it was the data detail driven bit wasn't as high as I thought it was going to be. Results focus is a big one. And I don't know if that changes depending on which team you're in with a law firm. But it'd be interesting to see, actually, Laura. So that's a great thinking. We should do a piece on that, Michal. Let's do some more thinking.
For next research, we can do it more specific with different types of law firms, definitely.
Yeah, and whether you're doing it in-house or whether you're doing it in different places. So yeah, that'd be a very interesting one to do. Are there any other questions from our wise and counselled audience?
Yeah.
Emma here. I look after the apprentices at ULaw. So these are students who are working on the job, as it were, and studying alongside that. And I've noticed a big difference in the sort of management style of the traditional law firm versus organisations who specialise in particular areas of law, such as the insurance sector. So I've got a big client who who looks after, for example, the big supermarkets. You know, all the sorts of insurance claims that come out of that. And so it's litigation based, but they have a very, I won't say rigid, but they have a very well set up structure of reporting to managers and senior managers and weekly meetings. And I feel those apprentices really benefit from that, whereas the ones, perhaps the only apprentice in a smaller law firm, their supervisors, their managers really don't take that interest that they should. And I think this is absolutely crucial at the beginning of their careers. So I think there's a real disparity between sort of the traditional law firm and the more business style that I would call it. So they could definitely do with some your advice on that. So I'm going to have to whiz off because I have actually got a meeting with one of my my flock. So thank you very much indeed. It's been fascinating, and I will take that away, a lot away from what you've said. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Emma. Yeah, so I just wanted to add to this. Yeah, so I think what Emma mentioned about the sizes of law firms as well. We found that especially in law firms, you know, in smaller law firms, they don't really have a framework to you know, to have those one-to-ones. They don't really, you know, find as much time to create the environment that's engaging for everyone. So that's why most of our users are really from law firms. We work because we create that initial step and those frameworks required to make sure you do know what's happening. If you have somebody new and they don't get the care needed, then over time they'll most probably leave. If you know, have those very little touch points over time, you will easily you know, identify the challenges quickly and provide them with the support that they need. So that's why law firms are, you know, one of the main sort of small law firms are one of the main markets that we work with as well.
And when you say small, Michal, what do you mean by small? Just out of interest, kind of team size, etc.
Yeah. So team size, our average team size, I think, is about 6 people. And you know, we tend to work with companies, with law firms of 50 or less.
Right. So it's also, it was interesting that what that lady there also about the age difference as well. So there is a generational thing, isn't it, that we're finding with different values, but also how people are, you know, people wanting to get back into the office, and actually more young people in law firms want to get back into the offices more than older. So I think there is an age difference there. Does anyone else got any more specific things that have been done, or things that maybe haven't been done in their law firms or in their experience that they think we could be doing and we could be taking home to our clients? And Michal, have you got anything else that IMD have done that you thought was particularly good and you know was effective?
Well, so I mentioned IMD already. We recently started working with Herbert Smith Freehills as well. So that's, you know, much larger company, but we work with a couple of remote teams. So with them, you know, the main value that we provide is that they've got a mix of people in the team. Some of them work in the office, some of them are, you know, in a different country. So, you know, what we help with is to get that quick overview for managers to know how everyone is feeling, not only internally in the office, but also externally in other countries working remotely as well. But yeah, so has anyone got any other questions? I know that Paddy mentioned that there are some people on the Eventbrite as well, so I don't know if they can ask any questions.
Well, what I've done, Michal, is I've put in a link with your email address in, just in case anybody can't get their question across, and then they'll be able to drop you a line. Is there another way to contact you, or any other way to contact you, say for email, that you'd be keen to chat over?
Well, email is probably best. The other way is probably LinkedIn.
Perfect.
So let me share the screen, share my link in the chat. And then feel free to connect with me as well. And if you're interested about you know, how we work with your flock, or how we work with our clients, you know, or just want to have a chat about, you know, the things you do and do they resonate, I would love to have a chat.
Brilliant. Well, from us, thank you ever so much, Michal, because that was so interesting. And it was a really interesting discussion, and nice to hear everybody's questions too. This is exactly what we're here for, really, as the Breakfast Club, is to put brilliant innovators like yourself in front of law firms. So it sort of gives everyone a clear idea of what's going on and what new tools are available. So yeah, a massive thank you to everybody for coming along today. Massive thank you to you, Michal, for talking so passionately about your product.